Hello, welcome to Topper Machine. I'm Josh Topper, and I had this little job come in, and the customer specifically asked me not to film it. It's very proprietary, but I started running it, and the chips were coming off of it so beautiful that I just can't help myself. And there's certain things about it I know are proprietary, but the main roughing of it is something I can show you. So with that, let's get into what this is roughly for material and everything, and then start back in and turning. So here's the first piece up in the lathe. This is 9-inch diameter, 1045 steel, roughly 2 feet long. And I've got 2 of these to do, kind of a rush job. Another shop screwed up royally on this, so they came to me to bail them out. Always the last resort, I guarantee you, every time. Somebody always has to come to me, the last resort. So we're gonna go ahead and get these knocked out, but let's start cutting again and making these beautiful chips. All right, so I'm running 180 RPM, feeding about 10 thou rev, and believe it or not, 500 thou off the diameter, so 1/4 inch aside. Well, here we go. All right, there was our first pass, and wasn't that impressive. Those chips coming off, they're not hot anymore, but look at the size of those things. Aren't those beautiful? Just nice pile of them here. And I think I could probably speed it up to the 250 RPM. I might increase my feed rate just a little bit more, but let's figure out just how long this pass cut took. All right, so in theory, we're running 180 RPM. We went 22 1/8 inches. We'll say 22 inches. And we'll divide that by the feed rate. And that comes out to 2,178. And then we divide that by 180. So in theory, that cut took 12 minutes. 12 minutes for that whole pass. That's if it's running true 180. It could be higher, it could be lower. We don't really know the exact RPM of the machine, just based on what the sheet or the plate says. So just a little over 12 minutes. That's not bad for a cut like that. So I'm gonna keep whittling this down to the rough size, and then that'll be the end of the video. So I hope you enjoy the sounds and the sights of the big chips flying. All right, I'm really struggling here to keep the coolant spray to a minimum. I've had to stop and wipe off the lens of the camera multiple times and trying to dial back my coolant. That's not seeming to help, so definitely gonna make a mess doing this job. All right, another pass done. We're already in a ½ an inch. And that was about 12 minutes. So my calculations were right. I think this next pass, I'm actually gonna step it up to 250 RPM and bump up my feed rate just one more notch here. We're at a C4 right now. Let's see. We're at 10 thou 1/10 over our feed. We're gonna go to 11 thou 2. So we'll see what kind of chip that makes, but a little bit faster, so we'll see what kind of mess I can make. All right, so I started getting some chatter there, and I think what's going on is it doesn't like the higher RPM, which that's fine with me. We can just up the feed rate, that's fine. But also, my live center is bad. And I wanted to use this one for this weight. And that isn't even that old. I'm just absolutely shocked that thing went to crap so fast. You know, cheap Chinese crap, you know. It's, well, it's actually a TMX. I was surprised it didn't hold up. I've had Chinese ones hold up better than that thing. So, well, let's just slow her down and we'll try this again with the little higher feed rate. So I know a lot of people have commented over the years of dry machining versus with coolant, and there's a lot of controversy online over that. And you know, I do both ways. I prefer dry for a lot of things. Something like this where I'm taking a lot of material off and doing a lot of hog, you know, depth of cut, a lot of heat. Coolant is definitely great. But as far as YouTube goes, coolant is bad, and you saw that in that last clip there. I got that lens covered pretty good. So it's kind of a toss-up. What do? You know, do you want good footage, or do you want you know, coolant everywhere and have to clean the lens multiple times? So now with our higher feed rate, I'm getting a much nicer, smaller chip, and these are about perfect. These are very nice. Cutting very nice, beautiful. Okay, so for this pass, I bumped my feed rate up a little bit, and you saw how it changed the whole way the chip acts. In the beginning, we were taking 10 thou rev, we went up to 11, and now we're up over 12. And it's a much smaller chip, and it's tossing it more up and back, which is fine. When we were at 10, we were tossing them this way. So it changes the whole dynamic, and you just play around with your machine. A lot of you won't have horsepower to run this kind of cut, but I do. This is 15 horse, so I can push this probably harder if I had different tooling. A different insert altogether, bigger, I could probably take a full 3/4 to an inch off of the diameter in each pass. But as it is, this is cutting really nicely, and I'm very happy with it. So I'm going to keep whittling away at this, and I'll come back when I'm down to my rough down size of 3.5. That last pass at 4 inches, we'll take the last pass and I'll film that. So the next scene will be when we're down to 4, and right now we're down to 7. So I got 3 more inches to take off this pig. Okay, I'm down to my last pass, last of my roughing passes. And she's getting warm, but doing really well. I've upped the RPM to 355. My feed rate is still just shy of 14 thou revolution. I'm running 0.139, and it is cutting beautifully. So as this diameter got smaller, I sped up my feed rate and my RPM. and just absolutely beautiful. And if you noticed on the end here, I've left a little material. I'm going to leave more on the next pass. That is for a radius. So, and that'll be the end of this job, but I've got a surprise for you all. With each pass, I have been keeping the machine a little bit clean and keeping one chip from each pass and marking it down, marking down the specs. And at the end of this video, I'll walk you through the whole list of each chip for each pass and show that. So with that, let's make this final roughing pass and then let's go check that out. Well, it sure is cutting nice, but it sure makes a mess. I'd say she got a little hot, but that's okay. That's what coolant's for. All right, so I don't know how well this will be visible, but here is pass number 1, 180 RPM, 10 thou rev feed, and that's a nice chip. I don't want to lose that. 180, 10 thou, that's second pass. 180, 11 thou. Very nice chip there. 180, 11 thou on the fourth pass. And you can see as the diameter changes, so does the chip. 180, 12 thou on the fifth pass. And there I'm getting a nice chip. And then I went up to 250, 12 thou. And look at how my chip got bigger. Let me see if I can get the shadow out of there. Still a very nice chip. 250, almost 14 thou. Nice small chip on the seventh pass. 250, 14 on the eighth. And the same. And see, as the diameter decreased, the chip increased. And here I hit 355, 14 thou. Very nice chip there. And this was our last pass, the one I dug out. So pretty cool. Hope you enjoyed that little demonstration there, and hope the camera was clean enough to see it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know there's going to be a lot of questions and comments, and I will address all of those in the follow-up video on Wednesday. This is kind of a common job. I've seen this stuff before where you take a big shaft, turn it down to a stub shaft. There are many ways to approach this, but this is the fastest. This is the most economical. Tree panning is obviously an option, but it is not economically feasible. It's slow, it's cumbersome. Yes, you do wind up with a nice chunk of material, but this job is a timeline crunch. This customer has kind of always been a problem. I quote a lot of stuff for them, but I don't get much from them. They're about 60 miles away, and they have me quote a lot of stuff, and then they tell me, well, we're going with somebody that's closer by because you're too far away. And luckily, this is one of those jobs where, yes, they went with somebody closer by. That was a little bit more expensive than I was. They screwed up the job. Today is Friday, and I'm running this one and the other one, and they need them done by Monday. So I'm gonna get this one out of here, rough out the other one so this one can cool, and then we'll switch back and I'll finish up the work on them and hopefully be able to deliver on Monday at the other shop's inflated price. So that worked out nice for me. So again, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I was able to keep the camera clean enough for you. Please like, subscribe, and share. And check out my website, toppermachine.com. We've got pin jaws in stock and a bunch of other stuff, hats, things like that. So check all that out. And please stick with us. There's lots of cool stuff to come. And until next time, get out in your shop and get it done right the first time.